Um, the second part of our revision is to examine some of the pressing social issues within the family as a social institution. And based on the nature and pattern of the society we live, patriarchy is one of the problems. In fact, patriarchy is a dominant family system in Nigeria. And remember, Nigeria is a country that is deep rooted in cultural diversity, and this also exhibits some forms of prominent patriarchy system. I mean, patriarchy family system, and this most times is characterized by, male dominance. Male dominance in the sense that it's it is characterized by how will I put it? I'm trying to look for the exact word to qualify this. Let me say it is characterized by male dominance and the subjugation of women. Not only subjugation of women, it also has to do with dictates of power structure, also resource allocation, and at the same time decision-making processes within the family as a social unit. So we need to examine the prevalence of this patriarchy that is gradually becoming a social problem in our social institutions, especially the family. Historically, patriarchy in Nigeria grants men some kind of superior power and authority over women, and it is believed, or let me just say, the reality is that men are traditionally viewed, as the primary breadwinners and decision makers of the family. In fact, most men are responsible for the financial security and overall direction of the household. Until recent times that we are beginning to see women who are, coming up to take the responsibilities of some irresponsible men. For example, women often face some kind of limitations in this part of the world. Not now, it has always been there over the years. Even in career opportunities, they face some kind of disparity. And also participation in public life, they equally face some kind of disparity. And you need to get it very clear that their roles, let me just say, the roles they play, the role women play is very important in the family as a social institution, because their roles over the years have been confined to some forms of domestic duties and childcare. Therefore, this has now further reinforced their dependence on male relatives. So this structure that we are talking about manifests in various ways. For example, we all know that sons are mostly favored over their daughters in terms of educational investment and inheritance rights. Also, they lack basic access to a lot of things in the society. Limited political participation is not out of it. But remember that while modernization and invention has increasingly exposed them to global perspective, it has also introduced some kind of challenges to these traditional systems. However, remember that patriarchy, male dominance, remains deeply embedded in many Nigerian societies, particularly in our rural areas. So, patriarchy functions as a pervasive family system in Nigeria, and it has gone further to influence family dynamics, and this has further perpetuated some forms of gender inequality or dominance. So there is a need for us to redefine societal norms within the Nigerian context so that women can be part and parcel of the society that we live in. Because patriarchy is highly prevalent, we can't escape it. Even if you look at religion, both Christianity, Islam, and African traditional religion all preaches patriarchy. Since patriarchy is a prevalent system in Nigeria, then it is deep rooted in cultural, historical, social, and let me say social context. What are the implications? What are the causes of this dominance we are talking about? One is cultural roots. Then, under cultural roots, we have historical context and we have the customary practices. That's under number one, cultural roots, historical context, and customary practices. Many Nigerian societies have traditionally, let me also say, they have traditional structures that prioritizes male authority, where most men or men in the society are viewed as head of the family. And this is most times reinforced by historical practices and beliefs that are already part of our culture. And there is this belief that masculinity is always above or is always ahead of femininity. So when you now look at cultural practices, various ethnic tribes, groups in Nigeria all have their customs. And these their customs most times endorse patriarchal norms, such as bride price, where the groom pays the bride's family. This is a sign of reinforcement when it comes to male ownership and control. Number two has to do with the roles and responsibilities. Under roles and responsibilities, we have authority and decision making. In any family that is patriarchy in nature, the male members are typically holding significant authority and they make key decisions as regards to finance, education, and family matters. Then, number two, under roles and responsibility is what we call gender role. Most times, there is a difference between gender and sex. When you are asked about your gender, we are talking about the social meanings attached to the roles you undergo as a man or as a woman. Then when you talk of sex, you are talking about biological differences. This only has to do with the organs that differentiate men and women. So, gender roles, if you look at gender roles, women are most times often expected, to take domestic responsibilities, which includes child rearing and household management, while most men are seen as what? Providers. So, this type of division, this type of roles limit women's opportunity for education and at times professional attachment or advancement rather. Number three, we have socializing norms. And under socializing norms, we have gender socialization and we also have family expectations. Under socialization, children are socialized into these roles from an early age, with most times boys being encouraged to assert some form of control and girls are being taught to be submissive and nurturing. This continue to perpetuate the cycle of patriarchy across generations, because as people give birth, they continue to tell them this is the role you are to play as a girl child and this is the role you are to play as a boy child. Number two, under socialization and norms, is family expectation. Because societal expectation laid or placed so much emphasis on the importance of marriage and motherhood for women. And this, in most situations, have led to stigma against those who do not conform to these roles. Most times you see a lady of 30, 33, 34, 25, 40 years, there is a social labeling attached to them. Why? Because they are here to get married. But in most instances, male child is not being pressurized to do this because they feel there is time for men, but there is no time for women. However, anytime anybody gets married, it is their appropriate time. Number four is economic factor. Under economic factor, we also have two issues there. There is this concept of economic dependence and women's labor. Under economic dependence, economic disparities can reinforce patriarchal structure because most women depend on male members for financial support. Therefore, there is this limited access to economic resources and opportunities, and this will further restrict women's interdependence or independence and agency. Then when you look at women labor, while women contribute significantly to economic activities over the years, particularly in agriculture and informal sectors. You go to many areas, you see that women are mostly going into agriculture, and their contributions are most times undervalued and unrecognized because there is a maintenance of existing power dynamics. Men don't want to see their role. Men don't even believe they have a lot of things to offer. Then number 5, we have legal and political framework. Under legal and political framework, we have laws and rights. And number 2, we have advocacy and change. Under law and rights, if you remember that Nigeria's law aimed at promoting gender equality, enforcement can be very inconsistent. In our law, there are so many laws that support women, but how realistic are these laws? How efficient and how effective are these laws? So most times these societal norms are often overshadowed legal frameworks because women's rights are sometimes undermined by prevailing traditional beliefs. People believe so much in our culture than the law that supports women. Then number 2 is advocacy and change. There are several ongoing efforts by women's rights organizations and activists to challenge and change the patriarchal norms, and also to promote gender equality and advocate for a better legal protection for women. This has been going on over the years. Women are now coming up like the famous feminist movement that we have everywhere. Then number 6 is resistance and changing dynamics. When I say resistance and changing dynamics, we are talking about the pattern of change that occurs in terms of patriarchy in Africa. Under resistance and change, we have 2 major issues. We have emerging movements and we have influence of globalization. Under emerging movements, there is an increasing awareness and education for women, and this will lead to a kind of growing resistance against patriarchy. Not only patriarchy, patriarchal what? Norms. There are many women who are pursuing higher education, profession, and leadership roles, and therefore they are already challenging the traditional expectations. Then number 2 under resistance and changing dynamics is influence of globalization. Our exposure to global ideas about gender equality through media and communication is influencing perceptions and behaviors concerning family structures and gender roles in Nigeria. In conclusion, patriarchy influences some forms of family dynamics in Nigeria, and this has affected everything from individual roles to a broader societal structure. So while patriarchy remains dominant, there is this gradual shift as more individuals and groups continue to advocate for gender equality and challenge traditional norms. Therefore, it is important that we understand that the issue of patriarchy is a social problem in Africa. And not only in Africa, it is Nigeria. Remember that even in the Western world, where they have laws that favor their women, it shows that before that law came into being, there must have been situations where women were oppressed. There must have been examples, there must have been situations where women, where their rights, where they were deprived of certain things. Therefore, as societies continue to change, some of these things also continue to change with them. Hence the need for people to start agitating for rights of women and for a kind of sustainable power framework for women. So you listen again, because there are several issues surrounding the problem of patriarchy, because patriarchy is inherent in our culture. Even the 2 famous religions in the world, Christianity and Islam, preaches so much on male dominance. These 2 religions are part of and parcel of our daily lives. Even African traditional religion is not an exception, because these issues are well embedded in our cultural norms, and some of these norms are still in practice till we speak. So therefore, it is important that we understand that the problem of patriarchy is a social problem. It is a social problem because women are gradually coming up, they are gradually sitting up, challenging their rights, they are in recent times trying to dismantle the type of dominance we've always had in Nigeria as a country.